Welcome back to The Remote Life. My name is Han Talbot, also known as Han Meets World, and today we'll be chatting with Lona Alia. Originally from Albania, Lona is the head of revenue for insurance company SafetyWing. She is also an advisor to startups in EU for innovation and founder of Combinator. In this episode, we talk about the importance of insurance as a remote lifer, living and working remotely with a family, and creating solutions to the impact we have as remote lifers on the places we travel to. So grab a coffee, a tea, or something stronger, and let's get started. And we're live. So Lona, welcome to Remote Life. How are things?
Hey, things are great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, you're so welcome. Obviously, it was really great to meet you at Workplace Culture Conference in Dubrovnik. How did you find it?
I found it really fantastic. I loved that it was broken up into 3 different days, lots of interesting sessions.
Mhm.
I love that it was one location, and then lots of sightseeing to do in Dubrovnik. And I'd been there 10 years ago before. I just didn't remember how beautiful it was, and really, really enjoyed it this time.
Yeah, it was. We lucked out so much with the weather. It made it so perfect. We did. So for people who haven't had Workplace Culture Conference, it was an event ran by the lovely Tanya, who was one of our guests in series 2. And the whole idea was that it was an event for insights, trends, people to share what's going on in the remote working world and the wider travel industry. So yeah, it was such a great event. I was honestly mind blown at certain points. I was like, wow, like these people I'm surrounded by are just incredible. Like it's so inspiring.
I agree. Inspiring, incredible people. Like, yes, we had Sarah Howley, Rowena Hennigan,
Mhm.
Marty, so many great remote, kind of like nomadic individuals that we talked about the kind of like the remote life. So that was
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely. And so speaking of which, Lona, why don't you connect the dots for us? Like tell us about your remote life journey and what brought you here today.
It's been an interesting journey. I mean, it started when I was 15 when I told my parents I wanted to live in the US and leave the country I was born, which was Albania, just because I thought that in the US I could accomplish all of these dreams of mine that I had, all these goals. So I left Albania at a very early age, immigrated to the US. At first, the US was definitely not what I thought it would be. And from what I'd seen in the movies and TV, and all of the fun TV shows I'd watch at the time when I was a teenager. But still, like I kind of like put my head down and I went through and accomplished a lot of my goals. And I was able to graduate at the top of my class, and then was able to work in startups and move up the ranks and travel the world. I made it to like 80 countries and learned 7 languages. So it definitely became a way to accomplish a lot of the things that I had in my list. But in terms of being a nomad, I discovered this probably in the late 2000s when I just had gotten my first job out of college. I wanted to spend the summers in Paris, but I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And I asked my boss, I was like, is there any way I can work from Paris? So, kind of like accomplish my goals. And he said, well, as long as you are able to meet your goals, then sure, we can try it. But again, it was like very uncomfortable because no one was doing it. And I was seen as this crazy person, like working from another country. But that worked out really well. And I was, the top performer, and I was able to do it from Paris. But again, like because it wasn't seen as normal, it was quite stressful. Like I felt like I had to be by a computer all the time. I had to be able to answer emails or any phone calls if they called me, or I had to seem I was available. So I love that we have moved on from that, especially with companies like SafetyWing, where we don't kind of like watch over you or ask you to be in one place at one time. It's very much based on your output versus your input. And I just love that way. I've been able to, build teams here at SafetyWing from 0 to, 14 people and a few million in revenue. We really have a fantastic, culture where you don't have to kind of like hide or pretend or lie to be anywhere. You can just be who you want to be and just live your remote life wherever you want to.
Love that, living your best remote life. Out of curiosity, does SafetyWing work asynchronously?
Most of the time, yes, we do. We just ask that Mondays and Thursdays for the strategy team
Right.
meetings, we are available for 2 hours, which is
Nice.
Yeah, 2 hours on Monday and 2 hours on Thursday. The rest you're async. Of course, you'll have meetings that you agree to. Or if you don't agree to, then you can also take those meetings and have more focus days. But you're only required to be sync for 2 days a week for 2 hours of
Mm.
those days.
Wow,
So,
yeah. I find it so
yeah.
interesting hearing different companies' approaches now. Obviously, everyone's got such a different opinion about how remote work or just office work in general should be done. So that's so interesting to hear your guys' take on it. So while we're talking about Safety Wing, why don't you tell us a bit more about who Safety Wing is and like what it covers and maybe the company mission?
Yeah, now SafetyWing is an amazing company. The mission really is what drew me to the company at
Mm,
first, and it is to be the first country on the internet. And what that means is to ensure equal opportunity and freedom for everyone. This is a very big mission. Of course, it's going to take many, many years to get to the end goal that we want to, where you have like a passport and then you have this country that takes care of your health, your retirement, income protection, everything that usually a country provides. We want this country on the internet to provide to everyone out there. So if you think of people that are born into a country where their passport does not give them that freedom and opportunity, we want to be able to give that freedom and opportunity to those remote workers, nomads that are traveling the world, that they want to be borderless, but their passport where they were born does not allow them to do so. So by building this country and by building this type of passport, that they can also be free to live their life wherever they choose to. This is a big mission that we all believe in, and I am truly kind of like attached to it because I know what it means to have a crappy passport, and then I know what it means to have the best passport. So I mean, having a U.S. passport now. But I mean, so I don't know if it's the best, but at least it allows you certain freedoms
certain
that
freedom,
an
yeah.
Albanian passport, for example, wouldn't allow.
So almost like even if you're someone who's purchasing that insurance, you're almost investing in that kind of work as well.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So like the what Safety Wing does, it does provide this like global social safety net. So
Mm,
health insurance, starting with nomad insurance, that is what a lot of nomads will purchase when they're traveling the world in case something were to happen.
mm,
They are covered. But then the cool part is remote health, which is the new product of Safety Wing. And that's the fully equipped health insurance that covers pretty much both employees and contractors
mm.
and people that are freelancing, and it covers them in any country that they go to. So think of us, moving around the world. We're 3 months in Mexico, 4 months in Puerto Rico, 6 months in Europe, in different countries. I have a health insurance that covers me wherever I go, so it follows me,
Sure.
not the other way around. Most health insurances are traditional. They kind of need to know where your country of residence is, and they cover you in the country of residence. But as remote workers and nomads that we don't really have a country of residence. Sure, I pay my taxes to the US, but in the meantime, I'm traveling all over and I need these kind of benefits to follow me. And that's what Safety Wing figured out 5 years ago when nobody was looking at this. And now we're scaling with a lot of startups and scale ups that are interested in covering their workers with this type of insurance.
Absolutely, you're so right. And I think aside from the location necessity as a nomad, can you name a couple of other like specific reasons why nomad insurance is just so important for people? Because I know that nomad like insurance, whenever you say about it, people kind of it tends to be the last thing on everyone's list before going. But what would like maybe say the top three things in an insurance be for you that make it so important to think about, especially as a nomad and with a family?
Yeah. You know what is has been really important in the last 2 years with the pandemic, with a war, natural disasters happening. It's definitely nice to have something like that because if something were to happen, like we saw with the pandemic, our people that had nomad insurance, they were covered for COVID-19, for example. And then if there were a war that were to happen, God forbid, in your country, which is now happening, unfortunately, in Ukraine,
Mm,
you would be able to evacuate it somehow. Or also, if you go to, let's say, the neighboring countries, Poland, you would be covered in Poland with that insurance. So it is important to have that just in case of any emergency, just because it could cost a lot of money. It could be very difficult. anything could happen as you're traveling. So it is kind of like a peace of mind, in my opinion. And SafetyWing makes it super easy to kind of like buy that as soon as you leave your country, buy it on the run. Like maybe if you, as you're approaching a border and they require health insurance, you can quickly just get it online very fast, which is nice. Those are the things that I like because, like, you're entering, for example, Costa Rica, they require you to have some kind of health insurance.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And having this, it's really easy. And that's what we pride ourselves with. It's just like making really good products that are easy to use and also just something that people love. And if you see our reviews, we have really high reviews on Trustpilot.
Yeah, no, you guys are doing some amazing work. It's really exciting stuff. Just to like speaking of, just kind of take things back a little bit. What else is on your packing list that you must have? Maybe your like top three. So obviously insurance is one of them. Laptops probably another. What's like three other items you must have in your packing list?
Oh, that's a good question because I guess taking a step back, and I've been so nomadic for the last 4 years with two kids. I have one is 3.5, one is 1.5. So we've been traveling nonstop. And we basically go from Airbnb to Airbnb and we try to be as light as possible. Usually we kind of follow the summer as well, so we don't have to pack as much. Usually we just have like one big suitcase and then maybe like a smaller one. But yeah, usually like certain plugs, like certain heads that you need to change up from country to country. And we try to be very, very light, just whatever we need, minimal things. And then if we need certain things, we buy them in the country, like maybe like a crib for the little one, and then we leave it there. And we do a favor to the people that are staying there. Like for example, we were in Mexico. We left it for the crib that we bought for our daughter. We left it for the helper. And she was so, so thankful because, I mean, they're basically sleeping on the floor with their kids, which it made us so happy to be able to, do these things and not cause extra waste as we are traveling the world.
Absolutely. Look, what do you think, like, on that note, is maybe a couple of ways that people can think about kind of giving back? 'Cause I feel like there's a lot of chat around, like, plastic straws or like things that are just sort of, okay, there's that. But then what else do you think like people could do as nomads that just small, like, giving your crib to someone who could really need it? What else kind of would you advise people who are kind of like, how can I give back to the community so it's in a better state than how I left it, maybe?
Yeah, I think this is a big topic. I think that a lot of nomads are discussing, and it's like, how can you live a very small footprint? Many years ago, I founded a company which basically would allow you to share items between people. So it was like a platform for women to rent things from each other as they're traveling. So the idea was to travel the world without luggage. So I think it's like thinking about things like that, like what can we do to share things amongst each other so we don't bring a lot of waste to another country. We don't bring things that we don't need. How can we, share the resources with each other? But then, of course, like, helping clean certain areas. Like you see that there's trash and maybe you can pick it up and put it in the garbage. Different things like that, like we would do at the beach. We would pick up and see things that were left behind. If we were buying juices, for example, every morning, I would just save that bottle that I first bought, and then I would go back and just refill that bottle versus buying another bottle with a plastic
Quite a lot
bottle.
of companies, especially in Mexico, I found actually did this thing where they would actually say, bring the bottle back. So their juices were in glass bottles. So they'd say, bring them back and recycle your bottle. I think you did get like 40 cents off or something like that. You got something from it in a way, but a lot of companies are also doing that now as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that Europe has done forever. I know Germany is up this for
Of course.
century, but like, in Mexico, I guess, less so, just because plastic is so much cheaper, and this is a huge problem that the whole world has, especially developing countries,
Yeah.
where it's so much cheaper to have plastic, and it's so readily available that we as nomads must do our part to say no to it and bring our own bags, our own maybe bottles that can be refilled and not use their plastic.
Do you have any like favorite companies that you like using? Like, for example, I carry around a Stojo collapsible cup for coffee. And I got it out in Dubrovnik, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, what's that? That's amazing!" Because it was just in my pocket because it's collapsible.
I love that. I was just at the World Economic Forum last week, and a
Oh
friend of
yeah,
mine is doing these cups that are completely biodegradable, and they're amazing. I think they're done with like rice and the inside. I forgot the name of the company, but they're doing some really innovative things. And he was telling me what a struggle it is to talk to the big companies and have them change their ways. And it's actually cheaper to have these biodegradable cups versus the plastic ones. But we need to change industry, and to change industry, we need to change policy. So that's like a whole other discussion.
yeah,
But I believe I've been in the sustainable field for a very long time, and I
yeah,
fought tooth and nail to
right.
make fashion more sustainable. But I did see at the end of the day that a lot of people didn't care. That still bought from Zara and H&M and whatever
Interesting.
was cheapest, which I get it. If they don't have money, they would have to do that. But truly, we need policy to really shape how companies behave.
Right.
Because if companies aren't told or aren't told, yeah, to put the true cost of the item, which takes in consideration the environment, because they're polluting the environment by having these things in plastic, by having the factories and the water going to the rivers and polluting the rivers. The true cost of something is not really what we pay, because the environment takes all of that hit.
Mm,
And until companies are made to pay the true costs, they will behave in a way that they behave until now. But this is a big issue, Han. And actually, at the World Economic Forum last week, there was this Arctic base camp, and scientists that study the ice were basically telling everyone, like, this is exactly like the movie Don't Look Up. Like, we are in big trouble. Like,
mm,
we have to help to change laws quickly to really like save the planet, because
mm.
the Arctic ice is just melting at an incredible rate, and there's no going back. And like, we need to act fast. There was a lot of politicians there, a lot of heads of businesses, and I just hope that money goes and flows in the right direction, where there is a lot of activists, there is a lot of young people that are trying to do the right things in this developing countries, but they just don't have the
Oh,
resources. And now we're seeing that the last 2 years created the most billionaires in the world.
for
So
sure.
there's a big disbalance of what's happening in the world. There's like so many people that don't have enough to eat, and then there's like X amount of billionaires that were created just in the last 2 years, like 540, I think.
Mm. No,
Yeah, yeah.
it's such a again, it's like one of those big topics, like where do you start with them? And I guess a lot of people are probably feeling similar, especially like in the nomadic community where they might be based somewhere that's not their home country full time, or they might not be staying around. Like, so I guess it's just how do we start kind of opening up that conversation around like there's something that needs to be changed, and we can change it, and we can do those small and big things as a community. Like, where would you suggest to people to start? Like, are there groups that people can join? Are there discussion boards that people can join? What would your thoughts on that
Uh,
be?
yeah, that's a really good point, Han. And I think that we were told for the last 10 years that it starts with you. You can
Mm,
make change. There is this new school of thought these days that actually, no, people have to be told what to do, and the government needs to really change things. Because if it's not really written down in laws, people are not really going to do what you tell them to do. So yes, we can do a lot of things, like a lot of us have been doing, where we drink with like metal straws, or we bring our collapsible cups, and we try not to eat from takeout things.
mm,
But then again, like you're asking third world countries to not do all of those polluting things, but they're yet the cheapest option. So someone has to give them an option, a different option.
you talked about policy, so I was wondering, and I know that there are in other areas of like different industries, there are people who are trying to get in on changing policies and things like that. So I wondered if you kind of had any take or knew of anything on there, but that's not, it's okay. It wasn't like a grilling that I meant that to come across as.
No, that's great. I mean,
Yeah,
again, like I'm very much, tied to this because I
sure,
worked in
sure.
this area for such a long time, and I feel the pain.
Mm,
And I'm just like, okay, how can we, really make a difference? But yeah, if we are allowing cars to still be used with
sure.
diesel and
Mm,
with gas, then you know that policies haven't changed.
mm,
If we're not investing heavily in the right technologies and we're not putting them into market right away, but we're being told by certain companies that pay politicians to still keep these old industries around, then we know who's running our policies.
for
You see
sure.
in the US, with the gun laws, like how we
Yeah.
can't even change that, and kids are dying every day.
Mm.
So it's just, yeah,
It
it's
sounds
ridiculous.
like it's almost like a maybe it's just that we as nomads that it's a if it's something that you really want to be a part of, then it's finding people who are also just as passionate about it, and maybe it's building that community from there perhaps. Because yeah, it well, this is going to sound very pie in the sky positive, I guess, of me, but I guess at the end of the day, it takes one person to start making things like that and just trying to help push people towards
Yes.
it, I suppose, right? And
Yeah,
as you
and there are a lot of
mentioned,
initiatives in every country. So that's what I learned when I was
mm,
at the World Forum. I saw so many young people from anywhere from the Amazon to India to all the different far-fetched places. So that
mm,
you do have people making the right moves. It's just looking for them and joining forces.
absolutely. And like you said, like it's being wary of where your dollars are at. I feel like that's not drilled into us enough. Like think less about the plastic straws and more about where's your dollars going? Like where's your money going? Like just being
Yes.
very mindful and conscious of that. Like you said, is it H&M or is it like and I don't want to like again demonize big brands, but yeah, 100%. I feel like there is just a slight different way of thinking about where your money goes. It's like when we talk about with nomads, like, are you supporting all year round businesses? Are you supporting kind of big chains? Like, there is so much that you actually can do that's just small, subtle changes. And also, if it's really something that is of concern to you, reaching out to your community as well, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we vote with our dollars. I've been saying that for a long
Mm,
time.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah, how we buy is how we show where our support goes and where
Mm,
it flows. But yeah, 100% that.
mm. It's something I'm definitely curious about. So that's why I feel like I was like, oh, that got very deep very quickly. But it's definitely something that I think is of concern to a lot of people. And maybe it's just a case of making it more of an open conversation for us to be able to have more with more people. Because I think it is something that, especially after the pandemic, people have become a lot more wary about their own footprint and who it is. It's not even environment, like just environment worry or eco anxiety. I think it's also about like, okay, which companies are supporting human safety for one thing, inclusivity and diversity in like all of their staffing, all the rest of that. So I think
Oh
it's such
yeah,
a sorry.
and I thought of one thing that nomads can do, and I
Yeah.
was doing this while I was in Mexico when I saw that the seaweed situation was completely out of hand. And I think that we can also be very truthful in our Instagram stories and the stories we
Mm,
share with others, and really kind of like bring climate change to the top of the conversation.
mm,
Instead of just showing something very beautiful, you show that, but also like, oh, here is the behind the scenes.
mm,
Here is how actually people are living just off the strip of the main kind of like avenida in Mexico. This is the garbage that we see here produced by all of these things, or actually we're in Mexico, and because the weather is so hot, that's why we have all this seaweed, and actually they're trying to clean it, but they can't really do enough because there's so much of it.
mm,
So really showcasing the truth and what's happening,
mm,
so everyone cannot just like dream of this like perfect idyllic vacation spot, but also say, wow, think about what could be done here. Is there something that I am capable of doing that I can help with, and not just think about racing there as soon as I can to just sit on that beach.
mm. Are you talking about Tulum by any chance?
Yeah, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and like you, I've been there many times, and this time around, it was unlike any other time. Yeah, the seaweed was at an all-time high, and
Mm,
the situation was extremely scary and really sad. where those beaches that used to be turquoise, blue, clear waters were just disgusting. They smelled really bad. They were mounds of seaweed. The water, as you entered, your feet were caught in seaweed and you just could not even swim. So like, and then because of, sea levels rising, the sea is coming closer and closer to the buildings and there's still buildings going up. So it is a situation that I shared with others.
No, absolutely. I think there is definitely just being there's it's also like it's not trying to ruin the fun. I saw a really amazing keynote by Nori Kintos, who's she's in the National Geographic. So I was going Nat Geo, National Geographic team, and she talked about how being sustainable and thinking more about the ethics of your travel is not taking away any of the fun. It's just simply kind of being aware of what you're doing, because of course, especially as nomads, like obviously we essentially kind of get to live almost like we're on a constant out of office in a way. So I think just being able to say, like, say to yourself, like it's okay that to think about, just be aware of your actions and whether that's impact on the climate or like the local environment, whether that's being aware of the community, because that was a big conversation that came up for me. I went to Mexico City recently, and of course they were also like, oh, foreigners coming in and gentrifying the place. Like they were like, I've never had such a severe reaction on my content about it. And I think it's just being able to have an honest conversation with yourself as to your intention around your travel. Also, like, why is it that you're going? Why do you want to nomad? Why do you want to live remotely as well? And just being aware of, again, small practices that can just make everything easier for everybody all around. That's a bit long-winded, sorry.
I love that. No, I love that. That's so true. I think it's just awareness is the first step that we all take in any kind of like self-improvement. And of course we have to think about the planet, like she said, to be more sustainable and have that self-awareness. It's definitely it's the first step.
Do you have like a personal mission at all for yourself?
For me, it's to live like a great life. And, freedom is one of my kind of like highest values. And I love the life that work from anywhere affords me. I can, spend time with my family, with my kids. I can still be free to explore new places and really get my mind going. Yeah, I can also take advantage of geo arbitrage, which is pretty amazing. I can live in countries where the dollar goes a lot further and without hurting the economy. Because one thing we have to remember is that if we are going with Western money into certain countries, we also want to be mindful to not overpay the local rates for things, because then we increase those services for the locals a lot more. So, for example, I'm in Albania at the moment, and it's so much cheaper to be here to pay like a monthly rent. But I do make sure that we don't pay like 2-3 times more, because then they will increase those rates all around for everybody else, and the locals will suffer. And also, when you're buying certain things in places, to pay the price that it is, and just let that be that way. Versus, we got a couple of big like soccer games, so a lot of people came from other countries, and they're just like paying so much more for things. And then the locals are like, oh, great, we can like charge $3 now a beer versus $1. And they're charging it for everyone. So the locals are kind of suffering with those prices.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any advice for people who are thinking about living remotely with a family as well?
A lot of people have been asking me lately. I don't share a lot. Being an influencer is not a goal of mine because I really love my privacy. But I also understand that there is some value that can be given to others based on my experience living this nomad life with kids. Yeah. Having seen life, how expensive it has gotten, let's say in New York and San Francisco, where I used to live, I can live that quality of life at a tenth of the price in many other cities. And that's what I've been doing the last 4 years. And it's been fantastic. And not only have I gained as a person, and have been free and not have been cooped up with just two kids in the US somewhere, which usually happens when you have kids because you don't get as much help, and help is very expensive in the US. You can have a lot of help in other countries. You can really be free as a human, as a parent, still feel yourself versus just be like, oh, now I have kids and like I'm not me anymore. But it's been really great. Like, yeah, for a tenth of the price, we've been living this life in different countries. The kids are learning other languages. They're exposed to other people, other cultures. It is a little bit hard to do logistically, but it's not that much harder than your nomadic life. And what we do quickly is like we go into a country, we figure out childcare. So, for example, in Mexico, we just put them in a daycare or pre-K. Once that's figured out, you're pretty much good to go. So figure out your Airbnb, your childcare. You go into like a expat community group on Facebook and ask where is kind of like the best childcare that would fit your needs. And then you go from there. It's pretty easy. We've been doing this, pretty easily. Of course, it does take some logistic planning.
Of course. And do you think you'll kind of just still see yourselves living remotely for the time being? Or like, do you think you'll do some slower travel?
Yes, we are going to maybe spend more time in the US, maybe as the kids get older.
Yeah.
But I don't know 100%. It's hard to say. Like we can't.
Of course.
That's a fun part about this life. You can't see very much ahead. You're just like living life as it comes and just trying to enjoy every moment because, life can be who knows how long you're given. So
That's so exciting. That's so refreshing to hear. And tell us a little bit more about like kind of working remotely with your family. Like, how is it? I'm assuming you like it. Would you recommend it?
Oh, yes. I mean, for me, it's been life-changing. I just love it. The reason is that I'm kind of a person where I can be very extroverted, but also I love my introvert time and I'm very efficient. I want to be able to do my work and then go live life. So, I'm not the kind of person that needs that social interaction at work. For me, that impedes me from doing what I need to get done during the day. So the sooner I get my work done, the most important things done, the sooner I can go and live life. And I just love the freedom that I don't have to commute anywhere. I don't have to eat lunch out. I don't have to kind of like do small talk just for the sake of small talk. I can really get done what I need to get done. And then I can dedicate my time, my special kind of like resources to those that I guess give me the most joy. I would recommend this life to parents. I think a lot of parents have discovered it and they love it. And it's sad that a lot of companies are making parents go back to work versus work from home. That to me it sounds very archaic and very sad just because the company doesn't feel that they can trust the employee.
Right.
They're making them go back, but that is the old ways. Going to a concrete box just doesn't make sense. It never made sense to me. Since I graduated college, I didn't want to get a full-time job because I'm not commuting first. In DC, it's like an hour each way. And then I'm not going to like a concrete box, be stuck for at least 8 to 10 hours and then call it life.
No, I was exactly the same. I never fully grasped why, if I could do as much, like, in a space, so I did a year abroad in Brazil, and I found that I was doing my studying as well, if not better, by sitting out on the beach. Sounds so stereotypical, but sitting in a beach bar with my juice and my books and things and doing just as good a job as as if I was in the library at the time. And then it's been the same since for me as well. If I can do as good results for you while, sat like on my sofa with my dog as I could do in an office, then like what's the problem?
100%. I think the key is flexibility.
Mm.
So, like at Y Combinator, I went to Y Combinator as a founder, and I learned that you build products that people want. So, first, figure out what people want. Don't just build something that you think you want. And I've been saying this for employers where they should give their employees what they want. They should do what employees and contractors want. So if they want to attract and retain the best talent, do what people want. If they want to be flexible, if they want this working from anywhere, then make that happen for them. Like, why make them go into an office if they don't need to? It just makes no sense to me. Yeah.
I completely agree. And it makes me so happy that you said that. Honestly, it's so refreshing. Lona, final question from me. Fill in the blank. Home is where?
Home is where my family is. And it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you have a family, it's just that's home. And yeah, but of course, for me also, I feel very at home when I am in the country where I was born, in Albania. Although America is also my country, I feel a very deep connection when I'm in Albania.
Would you recommend Albania to families who are looking to remote live as well?
Yes, because, well, I mean, it's such a great city. Tirana, for example, it's very walkable. It's quite cheap. It's very social. It's very fun for both families and young people. It's just super fun city. And Albania in general, it has mountains, beautiful seas, just everything in a one small place. You can do a lot within a couple hour drive, and it's something that's undiscovered yet. For those nomads, I want to invite you to Albania in September 14th to 16th. So yeah, the Digital Nomad Fest is happening in Tirana, September 14th to 16th. Definitely do check it out. It's free to join. They're going to have some really great activities planned that are super cheap, and you'll fall in love with Albania. So definitely recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the connection was a bit funny. So just in case people didn't hear it, that's Tirana in Albania are going to be doing a Digital Nomad Fest from the 14th to the 16th of September. And yeah, hopefully, will we see you there, I'm guessing, Lona?
Yes, I hope so. So we'll see. I'm always like moving around and going to different places and speaking on panels. But I hopefully should be there because I want to support the initiative. We're going to have some great speakers. I think there's going to be a crypto day, the first one. We're trying to get Brock Pierce to do a fireside chat, and he is the chair of the Bitcoin Foundation, one of the most famous people in the crypto space, and a great friend from like Burning Man. And yeah, so it should be really fun.
Amazing. Well, Lona, thank you so much for this. This has been so wonderful to chat. And yeah, hopefully see you in Tirana, if not for that.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you, Han.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Remote Life. And thank you, Lona, for your awesome insights. You can find links to SafetyWing and Lona's LinkedIn profile below. Thank you so much again for listening. And we can't wait to remote work with you again soon.